So I'll never forget it. December 3rd, 2007. We were on the 6-1 news and 620 jobs gone. Everybody gone.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
He's Galway born, Galway raised, Galway educated. He is Galway through and through, and he's worked in the medical device sector for over 25 years across Ireland and around the world. But now he is back and he is taking the reins at one of Galway's newest locations. It's Dexcom and Adrian Furey. Now, we did have a chat before you came in and you said to me, you're probably going to be the most Galway person I have in this podcast. So I think that goes out saying, Adrian, you're very welcome.
Thanks, Meghann. Good to be here.
Now, tell us where you're from, where you live.
Yeah, so, I'm lucky. I'm from Ardmore, so grew up in Ardmore and I live there.
Lovely.
So I've been in a lot of places in that time, but it's nice to be at home. I have a lot of family in the area. My parents farm out the road, so it's great to be able to go over and back there. And yeah, it's where I'm from, it's where I'm passionate about. And it's part of Galway. I
shouldn't probably say this on a podcast, but I'm from Ardrahan. But I always said if I ever lived anywhere in Galway, I'd probably live in Ardmore because I just think you've got the best of everything and then you're so close to the city, but then you're also technically in the countryside and then you've got the parks and then you've got Renville and you've just got so much that I think if someone was to move to Galway, I think I would say to go to Ardmore. Sorry, Ardrahan.
Well, honestly, I mean, we grew up here. I was born in the early 70s and Galway has changed so much, but it's a fabulous place to live. And even in what I do and, the career people have, and there's loads of people that have phenomenal careers in Galway, but they always say that Galway is kind of the graveyard of a career because people don't want to leave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People want to, when they come here or they move here from different places, it has so much going for it. Whether you're in the Barna Spiddle out that direction, Mike Cullen, over South Galway where we are, whatever. It's just a great place to be. And it was a great place to bring up kids.
Yeah.
Super, super place. So yeah, a lot going for it.
It is, it really does. And
I know we're biased.
Not at all, no. I obviously want to talk about Dexcom in a little while, but we might as well get back to how you ended up in the medical device industry.
Yeah, well, like most of my career, a pure accident. Pure accident. So I'm a real homebird, I suppose. People who know me know that. And went to school in Ardmore, but then we went to St. Mary's College in Galway, which is close to where we are now. And that was a phenomenal experience. And that's really where I saw the first leaders, if you like. And I didn't know it at the time. You're only 14, 15, but that's where you see real leadership.
Yeah.
And then lucky again, I got into mechanical engineering in Galway. So in UG as it is now. And that was a brilliant 4 or 5 years as well. And then out of that, and I said it to someone a few weeks ago, a young guy in Cork. I said, there were 26 mechanical engineers that graduated in 1993 in Galway, and 3 got jobs.
Wow.
Yeah, almost unthinkable. And this young man was looking at his own career, starting out, going for a job in Dublin, and 2 companies were courting him, if you know what I mean by that. Like they were, call him up, what do you think? Will you move from Cork to Dublin? Like that sort of thing. And I said, well, Rhys, there was a time when 26 people graduated, only 3 got a job. And he had no clue. It was like a different time. So isn't it fantastic where we are now? So very lucky. Loved Galway, got out of UCG, worked in CR Bard. So literally around the corner from here.
Oh yeah.
Which is now Medtronic. So I think at the time we had 400 jobs in the whole place. And I think today there's like 4,000.
I did loads.
So isn't it fantastic? Yeah. And it is fantastic. So I worked there for 4 or 5 years and it was one of the best educations you'll ever get coming out of college.
It's interesting because I think Galway was, as you mentioned, was kind of often seen as maybe you get your degree here, but you always kind of got out of Galway, you leave Galway. But I definitely noticed in the last probably 20 years or more as well, where we're sitting right now, like there are so many places around us. And now Galway's just becoming a real place to have a successful career. It's really kind of building towards something huge, I think.
Yeah, totally. And people want a career, but they want a way of living. And there's a great way of life, at least I think there is in Galway. The city, yes, we have a traffic problem, but the city is phenomenal. Like Shop Street and all the way down to the Quays is just gorgeous. And why are we a tourist capital? Because people, when they come here, they love all that. They do. And we get the privilege to live here and enjoy it every day. So, it has a good balance. You have your career, you can do what you want. And you have a great social life outside of that. There's all the sport that's around Galway.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the colleges are superb. They bring a great life to the place.
Yeah.
In the wintertime. And then summer, you've got all the tourists coming in. And it's just really, like, where else do you get all that? In the one place?
I know, it's funny. I remember I'm obviously from Galway, but most of my friends I met in NUIG or UG were all from all parts of Ireland. And the summer after I finished my masters, we all moved into an apartment above Buskers off Key Street. Great fun. And I think we counted, and that whole summer, I think there was one Monday that there was no festival on.
Yeah.
Because it was just festival after festival after festival after festival. And it, like, sure, we loved it because we were only, 19, 20, 21. And for us, it was like, this is the best ever. And to this day, like, that's still one of the best summers I've ever had. And I've done the J1 thing and I've done like different summers abroad. But that summer in Galway, because it was just, it was nonstop.
Yeah. Well, so I actually think when you go, if you do get an opportunity to go away, that's when you really appreciate what you actually had. And when you come back, you make more of it. And that's what we found. So like even, you think of the Machness Parade in August. So we used to bring the boys to that. That's a fabulous day or evening, right? Even the ones they do at nighttime, they're just stunning. But when you go away, you don't get a lot of that. It's different. It's great, but it is different. But when you come back, you really appreciate what you have, even more so. And that's what we found with the boys.
When did you leave Ireland? You left for a while, did you?
Well, I from Sierra Bard, I went to Cork, which is still in Ireland, but it's different. It's like, so I worked abroad in Cork.
I hope you appreciated Cork as much as Cork appreciates Cork.
Cork is fabulous.
Yeah,
Cork is fantastic. It is absolutely fantastic. And it was a great education for me. So I worked with Johnson & Johnson there for 7 years. It was a startup plant, like we had nothing. We had a concrete floor and a roof. There's well over 1,000 jobs there today. Yeah. So like super stuff. So I lived there for 7 years, and that was, I suppose you have to go away to really appreciate what you have, like I said earlier. And that was brilliant. That was brilliant in every way. Met my wife there. We came back, and I worked for Abbott in Galway. If you remember, Abbott were in Merview, so again, not too far from here. And then for reasons outside of the control of the plant, Abbott, we had to close the site. So I'll never forget it. December 3rd, 2007, we were on the 6-1 news, and 620 jobs gone. Everybody gone. Regardless of where I've worked, I've always appreciated a job because you just don't know. And I never take it for granted. And if I was to look back and tell my young self, okay, one thing to take with you, always appreciate what you have, because you don't know. Outside of your control, that could be gone. So that was tough. But then Zimmer came along. So I ended up 15 years in Zimmer, all different places. We have a factory in Shannon with 400 jobs. We have one in Oranmore, 500 jobs. And then I ended up living in Indiana for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
So we kind of did the opposite. The way in your mid-20s, you go to Australia for a year, or at least my cousins did. So we did the exact opposite. We went to the States with 5 kids, and we lived in the Midwest.
Wow.
So, if Chicago's 2.5 hours away, Indianapolis is 2 hours away, we're kind of in the middle, if you can kind of gauge where that is. So real heartland of America. And that was phenomenal. That really was, I would say, Liz and I would say, the best personal and professional decision we ever made was to do a 3-year expat kind of somewhere else. And we really, I suppose, we took advantage of where we were, and we really embedded ourselves in the culture of the place, not just work now, but in the culture of the community. The boys played American football.
Brilliant.
Where are you going to get that? Exactly. Some of the schools, like you just saw how it was done slightly differently. Not better or worse, just different. So they learned a ton from that. And I'd say the knowledge and experience they got from those 3 years, they'll have forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? America won't be that daunting place, which it can be. It's not a daunting place to them at all. I mean, they go in the morning, which I think is great. And I think that's the world we live in today. So, that was super. And then it all turned into Dexcom. What can I say?
Well, before I get to Dexcom, I want to kind of bring it back a bit there to before America and when Abbott closed, because obviously 2007, recession times, and I was probably too young to kind of understand really what was going on for people. I was still in school. I think my mother was back in college at that stage as a mature student. So we were kind of, I guess, in some ways we were kind of away from it. But I found that when I graduated from my master's was 2011, 12, I felt like there was still very much so the rumblings of it, because I was trying to get a job in media and get my foot in the door, and everywhere was just like, no, like we can offer you a few free weeks and that's all we can do. And for a long time, I was working for free, I'd say, for the first 3 years of my life, because everywhere was still really I guess the skeleton was, and the everything of recession was still kind of around. So it was I'd imagine a very scary time for so many people working in every sort of industry.
Yeah, no, Abbott, that was really difficult. We had 620 people. We had transformed the business from like 120. So we had grown quite fast. It was nothing to do, again, it's out of your control, nothing to do with the plant performance or what we were doing. It was a much bigger picture.
Yeah.
It was the right decision if you're in corporate finance. It was absolutely the right thing to do. But then you deal with people on the ground. And like, let's face it, every job is a person. So you're trying to do the best for every single person on the group. And your job is gone as well. Like, so we're all in the one boat here. So we tried to do the best we could. It was an incredibly challenging time. I'd say a lot of people remember how we handled it. I remember when we did the announcement, it was 2:30 in the afternoon on the 2nd of December. We had the whole team in, so all 600 people are in the room, and we did it on site. And I remember our site leader, made the announcement. There was a few questions, and then there was one lady, I'll never forget it. One lady stood up. She's actually not even Irish, she's from Spain. And I remember she stood up and she thanked the leadership team for doing everything they could to protect the jobs. And there was a round of applause. And I'll probably never forget that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'll probably never forget that. The last night of production was particularly emotive in that I went to the clean room to tell second shift to be in a little bit later than the following day because we wanted to have everybody together. And I remember going to the production line, and one of the team members said to me, look, do you mind waiting to talk to us until like a few minutes before end of shift? We want to hit the target. And I was going, no problem. Of course I can. That's not a problem. And it was only when they hit the target, I actually spoke to them. And that was very difficult. Like, I mean, I knew what was coming. They didn't really, they had rumors and they kind of knew, but they didn't really know. But I'll never forget that. And I remember a lot of those team members, and I probably haven't seen them since, but I'll never forget the culture we had created in that place. And it was a shame, but that's life. That's life. You roll with it. And I'm sure everybody's doing something different now and it's all good. But yeah, it's not easy at the time. It's not easy at the time.
I think you learn a lot though from, we often say, from the bad times, you kind of probably we learn more, I think, professionally and personally, because we kind of, even at the time it won't feel like it, there's learnings from it, and it probably brings you maybe to more of where you want to be in life. Totally.
Every day is a learning day. I think that's the way how you approach it. I don't care what age you are, every day is a learning day, and getting to know people and what makes them tick and how it works. You can't spend enough energy on that, Meghann. And at the end of the day, regardless of what you do in a factory, it's all about the people in there and the culture you create within that factory or accountancy office or, whatever it is. It's all about that culture and having the right people, driving the right behaviors. It makes work very pleasant. It really does. At the end of the day, you all have to work. Okay, we get that. Now let's make it the best possible experience it can be.
Yeah.
And that's what more do you want after that?
That's you want. You want a good work culture. And I know you kind of hear people like, oh, once the work is getting done, I was like, no, I think there has to be that kind of balance. You want people coming into work actually enjoying coming into work. And you don't want people going, oh, it's Friday. Yes. Okay. Counting on time. Right. Weekend. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that whole Sunday fear mentality, I think it's really important, especially I suppose when there's a couple of hundred people, because it's important I suppose with a handful of staff, but especially when you've got such a massive operation. Yeah. You mentioned there like Medtronic. Like I know so many people that work in there. And I was like, geez, they sound like they have great time in there, because they're all just like load of, I was like, the way I see it, like a load of friends working together every single day. And like, that's what you kind of want to hear from people. It's like that they enjoy it. America now, you said you did 3 years there. What learnings did you get from America?
Yeah, just a very different culture. So we lived in the Midwest, so not in the cities now. A lot of people are familiar with New York or your Los Angeles or, whatever, but this was in the middle. So rural Indiana. Okay, so Indiana is about the size of Ireland.
Oh, wow.
And it has a population of 5 or 6 million, roughly.
Wow.
Okay. There's a city, Indianapolis, maybe 1.5 million, and then everybody's, I call it spread out.
Yeah.
Okay, there's towns, but they're spread out. Warsaw, Indiana is the home of Zimmer Biomet now. It's also the corporate home of a company called DePuy, which is part of J&J. So you've got these big multinational orthopedic companies with their HQs in a town of maybe 20,000 people. And these are big organizations themselves. So, and then once you leave the town, it's just a series of cornfields, and the landscape is extremely flat.
Yeah.
The roads are incredibly straight. It's a grid-like, it's a grid-like structure, exactly what you expect in the US or what you see on TV. People are phenomenal. They really are. You'll struggle to find a lot of other families who might have moved to Indiana. You'll struggle to find that, but we loved it. And we embraced it. We embraced every bit of it. Yeah, we embraced every bit of it. The boys went to a small school in the town. The school was fantastic. The teachers treated them almost like their own children. I mean, it was really superb. It was really good. And maybe just because we were a little bit different, like, being Irish. Actually, I think being Irish there was a huge calling card for us. It was a great help because there's such a lovely, I suppose, affection the US have for Ireland, given that so many people, their families' histories or their family trees go back to this side of the world. So we found it was just a great welcome there. But again, different, driving the other side of the road. My wife wouldn't have done that before. So there's lots of little things you kind of go, all right, you have to learn new ways of doing things. But we did all that. And that was fun in itself, And as I said, the boys play American football or play soccer, just things they wouldn't normally do here.
Yeah.
They did it over there. I said to them, look, let's treat it like a project or an adventure, because we know there's an end here. Like, so in 3 years' time, we know we have a ticket back to Galway or back to wherever. Then, you approach it in a different mindset. You're not emigrated. You're not gone, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean by that? You're coming back. So then, okay, let's maximize this now. And we did things over there you could never afford to do from here.
Yeah.
And that was wonderful. Both the boys, we probably their abiding memory, we one Christmas, we cycled across the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh.
You know what I mean? But that'll never happen again. But that was fantastic.
That's class.
So there's a few things that will just really stand out as family memories. And there'll be a lot of things that will stand out for me on the professional side that were just life-changing. Didn't know it at the time, but I know it now looking back. And really appreciate that opportunity the company gave us,
It sounds honestly, it just sounds idyllic. I'm like, I just want to go there now. But I haven't been to much of mid-America at all. And I'm like, that just sounds like, because like that, I find when I go places, I want to do more what the locals do. I don't want to do the kind of, because I find sometimes you go abroad and you kind of can fall into the trap of the Irish pubs and, playing Gaelic football or playing like hurling abroad. And I'm always kind of, when I only lived in London now for a year and a half, and I remember like my friends from home were like, here, will you come play a camogie match? They're short. I was like, no, but they just need one player. You can play. And I was like, no, just one match. I was like, no, because if I play one match, that's it. I'm in and I'm stuck. And I'm like, I'm not coming out of it. Yeah. So like that, I refuse. I was like, no, and I tried my best to like avoid the Irish kind of bars, unless of course it was a GA match that I wanted to watch.
Yeah.
And I did try my best to kind of do what the English did, and I worked with a lot of English people, so I'd be like, where do you like to go and what do you like to do? So I found in that sense it was kind of nice to live their life, because when you're in someone's country, I think it's nice to like live like they do.
No, totally. Embrace it would be my advice to anyone. Embrace everything to do with it. And we did, and it was the best thing we could have done. So, a lot of some of the guys who might move there, and these are mostly on the US side, may not live in a small town of 20,000 people that's on the doorstep of the factory. Some of them might choose to live in a slightly larger city or town. It could be 40 minutes away. But I think you miss the essence of it, at least for us. We wanted to really get the essence of the community. And in the job I had, that was important too. Yeah. So, no, it was the best thing we could have done. And as I said, it was finite. So, okay, let's not waste any time here. Whether it was work or our home life. And we didn't. We really didn't. It was great. It was super.
Of course, home was calling. And of course, I have to say that I go up and down to Dublin now. I think I'm up and down that motorway a few times a week. And if I'm not on the motorway, I'm getting the train from Athenry. So I do, of course, pass this amazing, huge building that's coming to fruition. And of course, it is Dexcom. But I did say to you earlier, and I'm admitting it now, I know Dexcom because it's a partnership with Connacht Rugby.
Yes.
So that's how I know about the Dexcom Stadium, and I've been seeing the branding everywhere. And I think, am I right in saying the branding was possibly up and about Connacht Rugby before you'd even started the building?
Dexcom's been a great journey for me anyway. I really enjoyed it. I started work with Dexcom in September 22, and we made the plant announcement in May 23.
Okay.
So I spent 6 or 7 months, even within Dexcom, as he's working in supply chain on something, but we're not sure. Okay. And there'll be rumors about it for a fact, but the company hadn't announced it. Therefore, not a lot of people in the company even knew about it, because you couldn't. You know what I mean? You couldn't kind of let that out. So I started in September 22, and I put a lot of the foundation down. I don't mean construction, but just in terms of the how do we go about this? So I knew, okay, we want the factory to produce X amount of volume. This is what we're going to make. I went to our other sister sites in Arizona and in Malaysia and in San Diego, spent time on the floor there just to understand it at a high level. And then, okay, right, how do we do this? So there's a few pillars to it. And the first pillar was, well, first of all, how do we build it? And a lot of factories I'd been in, we'd kind of done brownfield. So there was a skeleton building there, but you had to convert it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's one way of doing it. But then this was literally a farm, as in Teagasc land and part of Lee Mellows Agricultural College.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's slightly different. So the first thing I would say is I went and I benchmarked as many of the medtech companies as I could, whether they were in Limerick, Kilkenny, Limerick, wherever they were. And what I found was that in terms of wearing a green jersey, everybody, facility leaders or plant leaders, were more than happy to sit down over a cup of coffee and share their journey. That information was invaluable in terms of me trying to formulate, okay, this is what Dexcom is. This is kind of what we need. And then the how do you actually go about it? And everybody, shared their wins, maybe their things that went very difficult or their challenges they had. And I then put all that into the hopper to try and work out, okay, how are we going to do this? Because, they're all slightly different.
Yeah.
Edwards Life Sciences is different to Medtronic, is different to Dexcom. But the how was put together. Then in May 23, in early 23, we appointed our architects. And that's really where I sat down with them and I said, okay, let's have a few core themes we want in the factory here now. Okay. We want fun in the factory. So a large part of our factory will be a clean room. And a lot of people in Galway would work in a clean room of some sort. Yeah. And clean rooms are white walls and they're quite sterile. And that's the nature of the beast. And I try to do that a little bit different. So when they come to life and we have people in there in a year's time, they'll see that. But there's other ways of kind of bringing fun into the factory design-wise. And I set that challenge for the architects. So the building you see isn't just a rectangular box. Yeah. There's a little bit to it. Okay. So that was fun. I'd never done that before. And then I just set up other things for the guys that listen. We 3D modeled every activity in the factory. So people movement or material movement. We've modeled all that. And we tried to say, okay, let's make sure it's a flow factory. So we don't want queues and lines. And I meant that in the canteen as much as I mean production. Because people get a break. And next thing they spend 15 minutes waiting for the whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, these are little things, but they matter day to day. So we try to, I'm not saying it's perfect, but we try to engineer as much of those things that we know of out. That won't happen here because we've designed it out. So, so that'll all come to life now in a year, 18 months time when people actually see it. But I've it all modeled in 3D. So we know exactly how it's going to work. That was like the first season. Then we did our announcement in May, just to get your point on Connacht. And okay, you announced Dexcom. Okay, fine. That's great. And it is great. Don't get me wrong. But as I said, we had chatted as a team. That name, that word means virtually nothing except maybe to our patient base or, for the medical space. It doesn't really mean a lot. How do we get that name out there? Right? So we had talked about a jersey or, different ways of doing it. Lots of companies do that and it's absolutely the right thing to do. But we felt investing in sport, number one, was the right thing to do. At the end of the day, Ireland's sports mad. Yeah, we are. Never mind GA and whatever. I mean, it's just sports nuts. Anything goes. And it's great. It really is. So Ireland's a sports mad country. Okay, let's join with that. I think for diabetes, which is the condition we manage, that's a good thing to partner with in terms of our mission statement. And then, I knew Connacht were planning to develop their ground. I know the history of Connacht Rugby, 20, 25 years ago. I'm not sure if they were going to get backing from the IRFU to exist. And I remember there were marches and all that sort of stuff. And, I remember I know the history of it. And Connacht to me is a brand that will always, and maybe it's a West of Ireland thing, that we kind of have to punch above our weight. And I just felt Dexcom is a 25-year-old company. We're just building our supply chain. The technology we have is quite new. Our competitors are much bigger than us as organizations. And we kind of have to punch above our weight too. And I just felt, those brands are just made for each other. Green and green. We're green, they're green. Connacht play all over Europe, South Africa. We sell all over Europe and South Africa. The factory is kind of at a crossroads of, the two motorways. So it's going to be regional jobs. Connacht's a regional brand. And you're kind of going, this is almost meant to be. They're developing their ground while we're doing a construction project. Timing is everything. And the timing just seemed to be perfect for that job. So besides that, then we come back to people, and I went and met, Willie Ruan, the CEO, Carl Boyle, the director in there. I met loads of them. And as I said in a presentation before, the team behind the team you see in the field are phenomenal. They're just great people. I know Sinead Cassidy well now, having taken up her new role. And you can see the type of culture they're trying to build. And that's exactly the type of culture I like.
Yeah,
and I just felt on every level, Meghann, it was exactly the right thing to do. And we couldn't be happier with it. It's brilliant. It's been fantastic.
It absolutely has. And it's funny because I was talking to someone the last day, because I actually worked for Connacht Rugby at the game up in Castlebar, and it was for me it was a great experience. And I said to you as well, like the Dexcom branding was there, the crowds that were there, and I know Connacht lost, but I was interviewing fans, and even afterwards I was talking to Connacht fans. I was like, well, what do you think? And they're all youngsters, and they were like the fireworks and the lights and then the Bundy, and they were just like, it was the excitement. Even though Connacht lost, you could just see the kids really embraced it. And a lot of them were GA kids who probably never been to a rugby match before. In fact, most people I spoke to, it was their first game, and they were just so happy for the occasion. And, as the Dexcom was there everywhere, front and centre. And I was then chatting to someone about Connacht games. And I said, you should come to a Connacht game. I said, at home, because I said, the Connacht fans are just lovely people. I was like, everyone is just really nice, really friendly, out for a good time, really wants Connacht to win. And then if Connacht lose, they're still there to support them and still there to kind of get behind them. And they really have to say the Connacht fans are really supportive as well. And I just think, as you mentioned there, it just sounded like the perfect timing as well. Perfect
timing. It couldn't be better. And as I said, like the history of Connacht, you have to punch above your weight. And I think they have that in spades.
Yeah.
The DNA of that organisation is how can we be better than organisations that have bigger budgets than theirs. We're delighted to be part of it. It couldn't be better for us, Meghann. Anything we post on media or online, multiply it 4 or 5 times because we link it to the rugby.
Yeah.
And as I said, the cultures of the two organisations couldn't be more closely aligned. And whatever about the result on the day or even the result this season, we signed up for 12 years of Dexcom Stadium. And so did Connacht. And we're thrilled with it. And it's very strategic what we want to do. It's very strategic what Willie and his team want to do. And I think that's the perfect marriage. Couldn't be better. We're delighted, honestly. And my colleagues in the US, who mightn't know as much about rugby, but they get all the data. They get all the information. They see the scenes from Dexcom Stadium, and they're delighted with it as well. They see the brand recognition in it. And like I said, at the end of the day, the mission of the company is, at the moment, it's a diabetes focused. I mean, that it will do other things, but right now it's diabetes, and young people have this condition, and the way to manage it before our product is, you take a prick of blood from your finger, you put it in a meter, and it tells you a data point that time. But like the way the CGM or the continuous glucose monitor works, you get a data point every 5 minutes to the app on your phone. If you're 14 and you get diagnosed with it, it's a scary time.
Yeah, it is.
But if you put one of these on, it really does help you manage the condition. And I know, I do. I manage hurling teams in Oranmore, and one of the guys is type 1 diabetic, and I'm very aware of making sure he is in a good spot, and he gives me his medication and so on. But he's wearing a CGM.
Is that the device? You can see in their arms
just little device, about the size of a euro. Put it in your arm. You don't even notice it. But for a diabetic, it's really, really important. And that they know that their glucose is going up or going down. Really, really important. So it's a game changer as a product. And, the Connacht branding helps us promote all of that. And we want to do more events with Connacht, especially in the diabetes space as we mature the relationship.
I think those devices are incredible, because I've had friends that have friends that have diabetes, and before, when they'd have to, we test the blood. And then sometimes I'm like, have you tested today? Have you tested? And I'd say I was nearly annoying my friend, and I say now that, those devices, it just means that they can, as you mentioned, can control it. Because there was a few occasions where, like, there'd be dips in her sugar levels, and then suddenly I was going, what do I need to get? And it was like, right, I was like, if she goes down, but then now it's all manageable, and it's incredible.
Yes.
It's just moving so fast.
Yes, and for a young child, like typically a lot of them will play sport of some sort. And that can be difficult itself, managing your sugars when you're active and so on. I meet so many now that I'm in the space. Before I didn't know anything about it, but like basically, there's a young man, I told a story at the opening. He's 22 now, I think. And he lives in Oranmore, and he was diagnosed at the age of 11 as a type 1 diabetic. But what really happened was the parents knew there was something not quite right. That's kind of the way it starts, not quite right. And they had been to various clinicians and so on, but couldn't actually put their finger on what the problem was.
Mhm.
And I know on one Friday, they ended up bringing him to hospital because he had severe stomach cramps. And on Sunday, he was heading into a coma. And that's when the clinicians realized, okay, it's a type 1 diabetic.
Yeah.
Now, he came out of the coma. He's a graduated mechanical engineer or biomedical engineer out of UG.
Oh, wow.
And he's going on a master's to the US.
Amazing.
And an amazing guy. And he plays his Gaelic football or his hurling or whatever he plays. He's active.
Mm.
What's brilliant about the device we have, and is he went into railing one summer, and because you have the app on the phone, there's also a follow me option. So while obviously the person will know their glucose level up or down, but the mom and the dad can know it as well.
Oh, brilliant.
And so I often say the product is very much a family product.
Yeah.
It's not just the patient who needs or the user who has it. The family have it, and then they know, that the person's in a good spot, which I think is vital. And then on the type 2 side, there's 2 types of diabetes. So type 1 is very much a lifelong condition.
Yeah.
It's kind of how you're wired. Type 2 is more a lifestyle condition. So you kind of have an older patient base at that stage. But I know a friend of mine, her father-in-law lives maybe 20, 25 minutes in Clare, but like bad country road. So this man lives on his own. I think he's in the early 80s. And but they were able to move him onto a CGM device from Dexcom. And basically, he had some difficulties before that. And since he's got the device, they can see his glucose level. He is able to manage his glucose level.
Yeah.
And now we don't have those problems anymore.
That's
so
great.
it's hugely important. Yeah.
Education all around, I suppose.
Yeah.
I have to ask you, of course, it is an American medical device company. There's so many of them around Ireland and, of course, in Galway. Obviously, the conversation the last day and Trump's announcement.
Yeah.
Will that really affect these companies because they've obviously made a home here, or what? Or was it kind of a scaremongering tactic, or what do you think?
What do I think? Now, that's slightly above my pay grade, to be honest, Meghann.
Well, I was glued to it and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, it's slightly above my pay grade. But basically, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I watched it going,
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on. I was trying to look at other social media apps to see could someone break it down for me. But yeah.
So I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Because you've got tariff, counter tariff, whatever, countermeasure. I don't know. I know for if you look at Dexcom, it's a growing organization. The site in Athenry was always meant to be kind of a Europe for Europe.
Brilliant.
And that's what we plan to do. So we're, regardless of what happened this week or next week, doesn't really matter to us. We're absolutely 100% focused on delivering the project and delivering the best possible employment in that factory that we possibly can. So that won't change.
Brilliant.
And kind of the way I get wired is, it's an uncontrollable for me. So somebody in the US or wherever will work out what that means to the business and we'll pivot accordingly. And I mean, I learned that from my early days in Abbott when we had to close the site. So you just kind of, we can control what we can control. We drive it as best we can, and let's see where the chips lie. I'm sure it'll all get worked out in time.
Yeah,
I'm
I think
sure
so
it will,
as well.
to everybody's benefit.
Yeah, I actually think of that as well. Even as I said, I've been reading up on it a lot since, but I do think so too. And I think I'm excited to see how Dexcom, the actual building itself, turns out, and the stadium as well, because that's also, as you said, been under construction. So I think it's a really exciting time for Galway in terms of sport and the medical device company as well. Because I said when I drive past now, I'm like, oh, what stage is that now? God, it's huge. Can't wait to see it. So no, look, honestly, it sounds incredible. Before I let you go though, we got to ask you more about the Galway you know and love. And you mentioned, of course, being abroad for 3 years. And I know you said you really kind of connected with the life over in America, but what was the thing you missed most about Galway?
Oh, miss most about Galway. Well, but I mean, friends and family are obvious. You miss the people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And there was a little price to pay on that front. I mean, there's no doubt. But we knew it was finite. But what do you miss about Galway? Like going down Shop Street, heading down to the Keys pub or down that direction. That's fabulous. And that's an asset we need to treasure and mind. When you leave Air Square and walk down there, the buskers, the singing, it's just the few pubs that are there free. I mean, it's just fabulous. It's very hard to find that anywhere else. I think anyway.
Even outside of Galway.
Yeah, and then if you want to take a spin to Connemara, I mean, where are you going to get that on your doorstep? So, we have a lot to be proud of. We're very fortunate, I think, to live where we live.
Yeah.
I really do.
Do you have a favourite place to eat? If you go eating out?
Eat out. Yeah. We love mornings to wear.
Oh, sure. Look. It's fabulous.
Yeah, we love mornings to wear. But I mean, you go into the city and pick anywhere you want.
Yeah.
Whether you're going to McSwiggan's or you want to go to Kirwan's Lane or wherever you want to go. It's fabulous. I brought had some US guests over last week, and we went into the downstairs in the Keys pub.
Oh, yeah.
And that was fabulous. And they loved it. And there was a bit of music going on. It was the whole thing now. It wasn't just the food. It was the whole atmosphere.
Yeah.
And as I said, they stayed in Air Square. We walked down. And they if you haven't seen it before, it really does resonate with the guys I bring over here, with the corporate guys that come over. It's fabulous.
Yeah,
Absolutely fabulous.
I had a friend from Limerick living in Galway, and what I used to do is like we'd go like that. We'd go out we'd go for food. Like, yeah, where do we go? I was like, you know what? We're going to stay walking until we find somewhere. We'll just see. We actually one time we walked around, and I think it was the 7th restaurant that we could get into because everywhere was full, and it was like 2:00 on a Tuesday, and she was like, "It's how?" And I was like, "That's just Galway." And I was like, "Look, we'll stay going. We're going to find somewhere." And eventually found somewhere, but then it brought us to somewhere that we probably wouldn't have gone. So I always think it's kind of like nice playing a bit of like roulette with Galway going.
Yeah, no, I do exactly the same. And I'll leave it with one is, this was 3 or 4 years ago, since COVID, we ended up in McDonald's Fish and Chip Shop with some of the US guys, and they loved it. Absolutely fabulous. And explained the history of it.
Yeah.
And they loved that as well. And it's just a fabulous place to be.
Their chips load of salt.
It's cool.
When you get to go out in nature, is there any particular place you like to go to walk or chill out?
Well, I'm from the country. I mean, I regard it as the countryside in Ardmore. So Renville Park is on my doorstep. It's fabulous. And then if you go to Gort, go to Cool Park, anything like that. It's fabulous. We have a lot of amenities here. We're very lucky.
We're very lucky.
We really are.
Sorry to anyone listening not from Galway.
Yeah, exactly.
And finally, Adrian, you have a full day off. You've no work to do. You've clear diary. Describe your ideal day in Galway from start to finish.
Ideal day in Galway. Well, I typically... we have 5 boys, like I said earlier. So typically the family, we'd head off in the car, maybe go to Connemara. I think, whether you go to Kylemore Abbey or over to Clifton or down towards Carrow, Spiddle direction, I mean, it's phenomenal out there when you get the weather. That's important. But that's where we like to go. That's where we'd spend a lot of our time. And it's great. My kids are all teenagers now, or early 20s even. It's great getting time with them. Yeah. Away from gadgets or away from devices or whatever. Go for a walk and enjoy it out there. It's beautiful.
It is. It's just, and it's funny again. Everyone on this I've spoken to has mentioned Connemara. Yeah. Every single person. I was like, it's just class.
It is.
We're very blessed, I have to say, with this whole county. And I know people give out the weather, but then I think sometimes the rain is kind of nearly part of our magic as well, isn't it?
It totally is. It totally is.
Adrian Furey, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you and learning all about Dexcom, and it's going to be incredibly exciting for Galway, and of course the partnership with Connacht Rugby, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more partnerships to come, and I just look forward to seeing what's next.
Yeah, no, great. Thanks, Meghann. Really a lot of fun this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.